Hello and welcome to Maximum Disc, a show where I celebrate physical media and talk about films that I own on Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray. I'm James Adamson. I'm a co-host on the Double Reel Film Podcast. If you like this chat about physical media, please do check out the podcast. It's a monthly magazine-style show made by people who love the movies as much as you do, and we think that any episode you listen to will have a good bunch of decent recommendations of new things to watch instead of just doing what the algorithm tells you. That's the sales pitch for the podcast out the way. Now we're talking about physical media. Why does it matter? Well, I guess if you've clicked on this to have a watch, you kind of know this already, but short version, if you care about a film, you need to own it. You can't rely on the streaming services to have what you're looking for when you want to watch it. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't. Is it the special director's cut or extended edition or the version that really makes the film work properly? Possibly not, probably not in fact. And it's certainly not going to look and sound its best on a compressed internet file streaming to your TV when you could have it on a well-made disc in all its glory on the shelf for you to watch whenever you want. So that's why I talk about physical media. Each episode of the show is where I discuss one film that I own. I'm not paid to review it. I'm just talking about it from my own point of view as an enthusiastic amateur. I talk about the video and the sound quality. Is it a good transfer? Does it represent the original film the way it should? Does it show off your home cinema system the way you want it to? I also talk about the background to the film, you know, when I first watched it, my relationship to the film, why I wanted to own it and all of those things. And, you know, to sum up at the end, one of the things I will do is talk about whether I think this is something that, everyone should add to their collection, which is just my opinion, but maybe it'll help you make your mind up. So today we're going to be talking about Licorice Pizza on Blu-ray. This was released at the end of 2021 in the US, beginning of 2022 here in the UK. It's written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, the great Oscar-winning Paul Thomas Anderson, we can say now. He originally broke through as a bit of a 90s prodigy. Hard Eight was like a respected indie film. Boogie Nights exploded, put him on the scene. He is regarded, or was regarded at the time, as an author of the Hollywood New Wave, along with Tarantino, Fincher, Wes Anderson, and so on. Since then, he's made a variety of films, often known for sort of quite intense films, like something like There Will Be Blood, but often quite humorous and offbeat and sometimes quite strange films with very distinct sort of personality to his films that we assume reflects his style and personality of his own. This film stars Alana Haim and Cooper Hoffman, both making their debuts. Cooper Hoffman seeming to embark on a film career. Alana Haim, a singer in the band Haim with her sisters, both brought in to, I guess, be authentic kind of characters for this movie. There's a lot of newer or lesser known actors in supporting roles, people I've not really heard of before. Alana Haim's family in real life play her family in the movie, for example. There are some eye-catching cameos by the likes of Sean Penn, John Michael Higgins, Benny Safdie, John C. Reilly, and in particular Bradley Cooper. But really the focus is on those two main characters. The cinematography is by Paul Thomas Anderson himself with Michael Bauman. Bauman started out as one of the camera operators on Anderson's previous film Phantom Thread. He shares cinematography credit with PTA on this and is credited as the sole cinematographer on PTA's latest film One Battle After Another. Sound was by the very large team, as it usually is, and hard to be definitive on who the principal members were because they didn't get any awards nominations to give me a clue, because normally when you look on IMDb there's about 20 names, but if you look at the awards nominations there are 3 or 4 names which you would kind of assume are the supervising sound editors or lead sound engineers and so on. However, from looking at it, I think the main people will have been supervising sound editors David Acord and Christopher Scarabosio, assisting supervising sound editor Jeremy Malod, sound effects editor Samson Nesland, and sound mixer Lisa Pinheiro. In terms of music in the film, a small amount of theme music was composed by Johnny Greenwood, a frequent collaborator with PTA going back to 2007 and There Will Be Blood. One of the stories of PTA's films is how on earth Johnny Greenwood doesn't win an Oscar, and sometimes isn't even nominated for an Oscar for his extraordinary music, which is often strange and atmospheric and really adds to the films. He doesn't actually provide a great deal of music for this film, but what he does references Bowie's Life on Mars. It really gets into the 70s vibe. And it combines a kind of elegiac sound for the slightly nostalgic sort of, early 70s vibe of the film with some triumphant and uplifting themes. Otherwise, it's pretty much a soundtrack album of needle drops from that part of the decade. Awards and nominations attention was kind of mixed for this film. There were three Oscar nominations, didn't win any. Across the board, there were like 67 wins from 197 nominations. Basically, if there was a festival or a city with the Critics Association, they will have given us a few nominations. Director, film, original screenplay, some attention for the actors, especially where there were best best new actor or best debut performance type awards. Not many wins in the big categories anywhere. It did win an award from the Alliance of Women Film Journalists for most egregious age difference between the leading man and the love interest. I don't think that's meant to be a complimentary award, and I bet that most of the time the age difference is the other way around when they give it out, because in this movie the female love interest is considerably older than the leading man, inverted commas. A few nominations around various award groups for the editing, which I think is only right. It's actually harder, in my humble opinion, to edit together a film like this, which on the surface could just be a collection of stories, but it has to be a cohesive film with a purposeful arc from beginning to end, and the editing is very important to that. Quick summary of what the film's about. It's set in the San Fernando Valley outside Los Angeles in the 1970s, which is the most Paul Thomas Anderson thing you can say about a film. Particularly, it's set around 1973, so early 70s. A number of the events revolve around the energy crisis of that year, when no one had enough petrol at the petrol stations or gas stations, as they say in America. It's inspired by a number of real life events connected to Hollywood and California, which is the second most Paul Thomas Anderson thing you can say. Child star, who's just turning like 15, heading towards his 16th birthday. He is too old to be a cute kid anymore, and it doesn't seem like he's going to make it in the profession of acting now that he's grown up. It's not working out for him. He is attracted to a 20-something woman who has a casual job helping out with the school photographs at his high school on one day. She's about 9, 10 years older than him. She doesn't think his advances are appropriate, but they become friends. And his romantic attention towards her and her kind of deflection of that sort of continues throughout the story. He tries his hand at various other ventures, businesses, and has a number of kind of adventures and misadventures along the way. All the time, these two characters are in their orbit and can't seem to kind of get away from each other. That I think people have a complex relationship with the age difference in this movie, because if she were to act on her attraction to him, that would be illegal, and the usual conversation that people have about that, well, if it was the other way around, we wouldn't be making this film at all, that kind of thing. But it's an evocation of the 70s and childhood and being young, and it's quite a singular story. This is based on a real guy who did actually do similar things to this, which is what PTA does quite a lot. He doesn't make a biopic, but he uses real events and changes them to suit his fictional story. And it's really just an evocation of what it was like to be young, a teenager or whatever, at that time in that place. My background with the film is, well, it was PTA, so I wanted to go and see his new film. I kind of slept on Phantom Thread. I don't know if I find Daniel Day-Lewis a bit heavy going to start with. I have to kind of work myself up to watching him in a movie, so I hadn't watched Phantom Thread at the time. But Licorice Pizza, I did want to, I want to support Paul Thomas Anderson's films. So I saw it pretty much as soon as it came out here in the UK at the cinema. I was blown away by it. Paul Thomas Anderson's only a couple of years older than me, and like me, he was only a child in the 70s. He was a tiny when these events were going out, and I wasn't even born. So it's not like he was there to experience these particular events or events like them himself, but he was a kid in the 70s, and he keeps going back to that era. Obviously means a lot to him, and it means a lot to me too, because it is the era in which I was young and carefree and running around and skinning my knees, and I find myself attracted to stories set at this time. I'm also attracted to the way Paul Thomas Anderson makes movies, the way his films hang together. He's obviously very Robert Altman influenced in this kind of collection of stories and characters that he kind of takes to a conclusion. I really loved it. I personally, I was okay with the age difference in the story, because I think it's very clearly set up that he's a young guy who's attracted to a girl who's older than him. It's quite common for teenage boys to feel that, and it does feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I think it's meant to, and I think it's meant to be kind of the obstacle to love, and it's a pretty serious obstacle to love, but also they're great characters. He's kind of young and optimistic and irrepressible, and he's always got a fresh idea for like a business idea, like waterbeds or something or other. And she's great. Alana Haim's great as her character, because she's looking for a job, she's looking for a place, she's looking to kind of make it, and she likes him, but she knows it's not the right thing to do. But also the film's not afraid of the fact that she can be really spiky. When she loses her temper, she can be a bit mean. She can rub people up the wrong way, and yet you still love her. You really feel like these are real people that you could feel a real connection to. So I definitely loved it. I wanted to watch it on physical media as soon as it came out. I bought it. Having said that, I don't rewatch this film a lot. I'm a little bit nervous every time I do rewatch it because, perhaps like me, if you listen to that summary of the film, you might go, so a child star, gives up acting to make waterbeds, all the while trying to romance a girl who's older than him, and she's a woman and he's still technically a child, and that's really awkward, and they bounce around and have misadventures with people connected to the film business and, the ups and downs of their life. Is that a movie? I took it on trust that it would be with Paul Thomas Anderson at the helm, but I also had this feel like, was there a certain magic to this film working that I would break if I watched it too often? I'm almost afraid, this time the spell will be broken and I won't love it as much. Fortunately, when I do rewatch it, despite those elements perhaps being a bit weird and odd, and when you put them together they shouldn't work, which I think is the meaning of the title, Licorice Pizza. You put them on and somehow they do work. And every time I rewatch it, I do love it. It just evokes this wonderful atmosphere. I mean, the 70s, maybe they were like that. I mean, they weren't quite like that for me. I was a small child towards the end of the decade. I did go to an American school for a while and I had a yearbook. So there's elements of this that I respond to and love. But I just think it's a really fun film, that the main actors are terrific together. And it's just a really fun, with some serious moments, but it's like a really enjoyable, slightly knockabout sort of tale of just being young, being young and getting up to stuff. And there's some terrific cameos. The owner of the Japanese restaurant, who is so insensitive and buffoonish. Bradley Cooper as real life film producer John Peters, who was mad, and he's brilliant in the movie as well. It's just a great watch and a lot of fun. And every time I return to it, I get to spend more than 2 hours in the company of a bunch of characters, various kids, and different people, and I just want to spend time in their company. What Tarantino calls a hangout movie. So let's talk about the disc. It's just the standard UK release. It's got some basic sort of extras and commentaries if you like that. The film was shot in sort of pretty standard 35, and it's very recently made, so it didn't need any restoration. It's just a pretty standard but good quality print of a reproduction of the original print. You get a Blu-ray. It's not 4K because very few Thomas Anderson films are available in 4K, so it's a single disc with the film and the features, which is some interviews, trailers, couple of making ofs. It's got a bit of a 70s look to it, some photos and stills from the time. A nice little package. I haven't gone for the box set or the steelbook. Like I say, the movie was enough for me, and this is the movie. The video, as you'd expect from a PTA film set in 1973, it's got quite a vintage feel. It's shot on 35mm Kodak film, which you could have made a movie in back then, using mostly Panavision lenses to give it that anamorphic 70mm look. I love Panavision. I think it's my favourite format because it's affordable to do a big movie like this. Not every movie Paul Thomas Anderson does can be in 70mm like The Master, but this gives you a big shot and a big screen and a lot to work with. And I believe all the equipment that was used to make films is from the time period the film was set, so that's how you get that feeling. It's all very heightened. I mean, if you watch a 70s film from the time, it's not as well lit as this, it's not as fresh looking as this. But, in a similar way that Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has a really glossy 60s feel, but somehow elevated, this is what PTA is doing to the early 70s. I really like it. It's, like I say, they had a really fresh 35mm print to do a really good transfer onto the video. It's, like I say, I went to an American school. I spent some of the time in my childhood in hot tropical countries. They're very sun-drenched, very 70s look. It takes me back to my childhood. The film really brings that to life. It's one of those, it's not the 70s, but it's the way we want to remember it. And it's really beautifully shot, like PTA's always is. He makes good use of the Panavision frame to give you, panoramas and vistas, but also close-ups that give you the emotion of the characters. Really good stuff, really good video. terms of the sound, it was recorded on Dolby 70mm on the 70mm prints that were made for its theatrical release. The digital sound these days on film, but it's really good quality sound, reproduced well here on DTSX. Obviously, there are no like helicopters and car chases and gunshots and stuff like that, but there is a police chase, and there are moments of drama, and the soundtrack. There's wall to wall like 70s music, which is blaring out on your speakers really beautifully. Anytime there is some sound, anytime you've got like running through the streets, or the motorcycle, the roaring motorcycle engine in the scene where the William Holden bass character played by Sean Penn gets drunk and rides a motorcycle in the middle of the night. It's, as well as looking great with the kind of well-lit night shoot, it's also, you get that great sound, you get some nice pickup from your speakers, but mostly, I don't think this is the biggest challenge to your cinema system, but it's really nice, faithful sound to reproduce that music and what's going on the screen. And because he's kind of a disciple of Altman, the overlapping dialogue is all captured really well. It's all clear and really nice to see. So overall, I love this movie. I don't think it gets mentioned as like a Paul Thomas Anderson great. I mean, when people want to go back to the 70s, they do sort of think of Boogie Nights first. And obviously One Battle After Another is the film that he's won like his Oscars for. And a lot of people would say his favourite film is There Will Be Blood. I think my favourite film of his is The Master, although I did love One Battle After Another, and that's probably his most entertaining film. This is, I guess, a bit lighter than that. It's certainly not as heavy as There Will Be Blood or The Master. And it's not as much of a full-on kind of endless kind of thrill ride as One Battle After Another or Boogie Nights with that constant kind of action one way or another. But it's really fun. It's really eventful. There's always something going on because Cooper Hoffman's character, Gary, is always getting up to something. And, it's this great knockabout stuff. They run out of petrol and are, trying to like, sort of coast down mountain roads in a truck because they're like delivering waterbeds. There's always something fun going on in this movie. And there's some emotional payoff. These people care about each other. These people experience different things. It's about growing up, coming of age. So, yeah, I think this one's a lot of fun. I think it's beautifully made, the way PTA songs always are. A little bit of an awkward kind of central subject, which, I think is... I don't think that's based on real events. Well, it kind of is. I don't think it's based on real events in the life of the Gary, real-life character that PTA's based the main narrative on. But he did one time, I think, witness a young woman, like a young adult woman, like trying to help out with the school photographs for the high school yearbook, and some teenage boy was chatting her up because teenage boys love a woman just a few years older than her and was trying his luck. And he thought, wouldn't it be interesting? I think in his mind, wouldn't it be interesting if he didn't leave it at that and actually liked her enough, wanted to go out with her? How interesting and awkward it'd be how would you resolve that dilemma? So he's put those two things together, and not everyone was comfortable with that, but I got on with it, maybe because I'm seeing myself from the point of view of the younger boy liking the older girl. It's not his problem whether it's appropriate. It's kind of, she's the adult, so I can see why perhaps an adult woman watching this program would go, oh, this isn't quite right. This film might not be for them. But I thought it was a terrific movie. It's a lovely evocation of the 70s, even though it's not a completely accurate evocation of what the 70s were like. A lot of it was pretty grim. Should you add this film to your collection? Well, I think if you love PTA, yes, you should have all of his films on physical media because that's where they belong. If you like films about the 70s, this is a really good one. California, that whole vibe, sure, the music is great. I think some people will be less keen on this. So it really does depend if you have a taste for that kind of, when PTA is in like Robert Altman mode and telling this collection of stories about a collection of characters, whether you can live with that central story about the age difference, because it is uncomfortable for some people, and whether you like this kind of slightly lighter, more meandering kind of version. It's not, Daniel Day-Lewis kind of destroying everyone around him and himself, in the pursuit of oil wealth in There Will Be Blood. It's not, the obsession of Phantom Thread or the incredible storyline and power and strangeness and beauty of The Master or One Battle After Another, which was my favourite film last year. It's not that, but it's a really fun, 70s film about being young, having, bushy hair and growing up, in that early era. And if any of that appeals to you, this is a really, really good film, and it looks great and it sounds great. So I would like everyone to add all films to their collection, but if money were not unlimited, which it isn't, and this wasn't your type of thing, maybe you wouldn't go for it. But I think this is a perfectly worthy part of the PTA filmography. So if you like him and you like films about the 70s, this will be for you. So that's Licorice Pizza. I hope you enjoyed me talking about it. I certainly enjoyed telling you about it. I hope you got what you needed, and I hope you go and buy it tomorrow. There are more videos of my reviews to watch and listen to already. There will be more along the way. I hope you enjoyed this one, and check out some more. If you did enjoy this, please do check out the podcast, and ways to find us and our socials will be on the screen in a moment. In any event, I hope to see you for more physical media chat sometime in the future, right here on Maximum Disc. The Maximum Disc YouTube channel is brought to you by Double Reel, the monthly magazine podcast for the discerning film nerd. If you like our celebration of physical media, please check out the podcast for more chat about the films we love and hate.